of bloodshed that has been, as a result of protests after Bobby Wine, the main contender, according to many, has been arrested several times. Maybe let's just start with your opening remarks on what you see and think of Uganda so far.
I think we have experienced in the few days ago crashes, demonstrations, and I think Museveni so far has been proving himself as becoming intolerant of the other competitors that he has. I see him come back because, of course, he has really been intimidating the other candidates, and especially Bob Wine. We heard yesterday that there were military who really interfered with his campaign as he was being interviewed somewhere. And for that matter, I think Museveni is really trying to force his way back to as a president of Uganda.
All right, and looking at the fact that he has been at the helm for 34 years, there are some young Ugandans who do not know any other president. What do you say ails Uganda in terms of changeover of regime? We've had Kizza Besigye have several attempts. He seemed to have quite a little bit of support, but again, with intimidation and a very strong grip from the Museveni administration, that did not happen. What did you say ails Uganda in terms of change?
Of course, we are not quite sure, or rather, I'm not quite sure what the kind of administration, especially with the two candidates that they would give to Ugandans. But remember, also we should appreciate that Museveni took the leadership of Uganda when Uganda was in a total mess those years. And according to what I understand is that Museveni will not give these two gentlemen peace until he gets back to power, because he believes he should be like a life president.
All right, and I guess we'll continue focusing on that. We will get more into that discussion later on with a Ugandan journalist right here on KTN News. But let's look at other stories. As Kenyans contend with the harsh economic times, the country's public debt remains a focal point for the country. Kenya's debt is currently standing at 7.06 trillion shillings. To help salvage the country from further sinking in debt, the main running on National Treasury, Ukur Yatani, seems to have something up his sleeve. It is just but a temporary reprieve. KTN's Noakip Kemboi now reports on just why Treasury is betting big on the new debt relief.
Borrowing more in Kenya is becoming a concern by the day, a state that has seen the Treasury plan to legislate the debt ceiling up.
The interventions that we are going to make in supporting and sustaining our economy will be not only ordinary, but sometimes will also go beyond the ordinary measures. And that's why we are not shy from borrowing. But I have assured Kenya that we are only going to borrow concessionally, where we'll have an interest rate of 0%, we'll have an interest rate of 1%, or even 1.4%, because what choice do we have?
As of August 2020, Kenya's public debt stood at 7.06 trillion shillings. This, together with committed and disbursed debt of 1.35 trillion shillings, translate to a total public debt of 8.41 trillion shillings.
The IMF and the World Bank have stated that developing countries should not have more than 40% debt to GDP ratio. Now we are in the 60%. Now that's not very sustainable.
In pursuit of further credit facilities, Kenya has bowed to International Monetary Fund's pressure to include parastatals and county loans to the national debt, a move that went through the national debt ceiling, placing the new debt figure at 10.4 trillion shillings.
The only option we have is either raise taxes beyond normal or borrow concessionally to support the economy. And we've decided to have an opportunity that we borrow from the concessional window from the multilateral agencies like IMF and World Bank, and so that now we are going to deal with it at a later time.
To mitigate the debt pressure, the Debt Service Suspension Initiative has been rolled out to ease the debt burden. After surpassing the first opportunity to get relief, with Treasury terming the terms of the initiative as too restrictive, Kenya will take a relief from the Paris Club, which was due between January and July 2021, saving the country 32.9 billion shillings in its debt repayment.
So I think that pressure in those, especially in the education and the health sector, have made it very, very important for these extra funds that are coming through the debt relief to be able to be plugged in.
Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukuri Yatani says this will give us the fiscal space to make the much-needed spending on the COVID-19 economic recovery strategy, especially in the social, health and economic sectors.
China does not extend that debt relief, and you remember there are some elements of Chinese loans that need to be paid this month. If that money is transferred towards paying Chinese debt, then it ends up really being not really entirely useful to the country.
Kenya has also applied for debt service suspension under the G20 DSSI framework for amounts estimated at 40.6 billion shillings due from 1st of January to 30th of June 2021 from non-Paris Club bilateral creditors. With next year's budget deficit being projected to hit the trillion shilling mark, with more borrowing being expected to fill the gap, the Controller of Budget has warned of an imminent debt crisis if the trend continues. Nokip Kimboi, KTN News.
Senator Paul Njoroge, what do you make of the insatiable appetite for borrowing for the current regime that we have had?
Yeah, I think we need to understand one thing, because we always have an annual budget which is presented by the government every year, that is every June or July there. And then you see what happens is that the rate that the tax is corrected in this country, if you really rely on the tax without borrowing, immediately that tax would not help the government to achieve its goals in terms of development. You have seen like the way things are happening in this country. If you go around the country, you'll see that President Uhuru has really done a wonderful job in road network. And at the same time, electricity, and also railway programs.
Okay. Whereas those are things that he probably would like to take credit for. They were in the plan way before and have been implemented. We saw during the Kibaki regime, we managed to actually reduce our debts to a sizable amount, but this has not been the case with the current government. So question is, are we really putting those funds to where they should be?
Of course, I would say that and especially the last term, the first term of President Kenyatta, there was a huge misappropriation of public funds. And may I say one of the kitty which was misused is actually the money which has been borrowed from outside. And that is why you have seen when he came in back in 2017. In 2018, his major role was actually to see that the culprits of the corruption were dealt with. That's why you saw people like the minister, the CS for finance, being sent home together with other officers. We have seen that happening time and again. And you see, like when I was at the Senate, I was in that finance committee, and I would tell you that there was a huge cases of misappropriation of a public fund. But nevertheless, let's say, if you, as I've said, if you move around the country, this is not like the period of Kibaki. Kibaki planned maybe for those roads to be done, but he didn't have enough money actually to implement. And I think that's why the president decided to start borrowing, expecting that that money would be refunded smoothly without any
some might argue that Kibaki actually managed to achieve quite a lot even without borrowing. But away from that, how do we bridge the gap, in your opinion, or what do we need to do as a country? Because a country that is trying to get that money out of tax is definitely going to overburden the economy, and that ultimately means the man at the bottom is the one who pays the ultimate price as a result of very high taxation. So how do we bridge the gap?
I think one major mistake that the government is almost heading to do, and this is a grave mistake, is right now Kenyans really need to concentrate on paying the debts as they are. But any other obligation or any other tax given to Kenyans, that will be a big burden. That's what I believe. And that's why you see people like us, someone like me, I'm heading a no campaign to BBI. Because once, if we pass that BBI, and in addition to the debts we have, then it will be crazy, and Kenyans will not be able to pay their debt smoothly.
All right, still on matters economy, and the cost of credit is still locking out a sizable number of small businesses in Kenya, with interest rates now at just about 14%. Many businesses hope things may change for the better as the new year progresses. KTN's Brian George tells us on just why the borrower, left with no options, hangs on a mirage of reduced interest rates as they seek to constantly boost their business. Let's take a look.
Meet Nelson Ochieng, a middle-aged second-hand clothes vendor in Nairobi's Mutindwa market in Buruburu. Having plied his business for well over 10 years now, it has been sustained entirely by small loans financed by microfinance enterprises in Kenya.
Let them have a bit of some humanity. When they loan people, they let them help people with this money to help themselves and also to get their loan back comfortably.
Ochieng's story is that of resilience and knowing how to survive the hard economic times that have been worsened by COVID-19, which has left a contracted economy.
I built on the business from that 50 bob, and it reached a point whereby I was buying in bulk to an extent that I had to source for even other ways in which I can get that capital to make sure that I satisfy the needs of my clients.
Despite Kenya boasting of a thriving financial sector, cost of loans is still way out of reach of many. This serving as an indictment for a country having 24 recognized microfinance institutions controlling a capital base of over 150 billion shillings. An additional 50+ mobile money lenders are spread across the Kenyan market too.
We are just trying to work out with the little we have in our wallet, which is not doing so much.
Ochieng's sentiments are echoed by Ibrahim, another shoe vendor at Mtindwa, in the hope that all this will soon be addressed to enable businesses grow. Brian George, Otieno, KTN News, Nairobi.
All right, Senator, maybe just to get your thoughts also on small businesses and how they will survive. Credit remains a huge challenge for many of them, and capital even to begin. So that becomes almost like sharks, rather like fish which are in a shark hole, which cannot take off. Your thoughts on how we can bridge this gap to ensure that SMEs are able to take off?
To me, I think the government would really try to work on reducing the tax. I wonder if it would be possible for the government to go up to 12% rather than 14%. So that, because the status of the economy is not doing good in Kenya, And I would say that with the current happenings of coming up with an idea of increasing taxes, which I think the government will have no choice if at all it goes the BBI way. I mean, I think Kenyans will be overtaxed. And that is why, as I said, someone like me, I'm leading in a no campaign, because we really need to save Kenyans right now. We need to concentrate with the pandemic as it is, this coronavirus pandemic, and then at the same time, be able to see if the government can really try to reduce the percentage of the tax to the small business people.
All right.
Yeah.
And, well, that brings us to 22 minutes after 6 right here on Morning Express. So we're going to take a short break, but do stay with us. When we come back, Jesse Rogers is going to be taking you through what's making headlines on the local dailies. This is Morning Express. We've got your morning covered.